with elections coming up in a down year, meaning there are no high-profile races in the Senate, the House, no governor races, obviously not the president. This means that the only races you'll see for a lot of people, which will be tomorrow, are things like the race for mayor, for the city commission, and for other positions as you go down that order. And I got to listen to a candidate forum for St. Mary's, the town where I'm living currently. And while my scope of influence obviously here is small, I don't even know if anyone here is listening to this, but I thought I'd give my opinion about what's going on here. And it's not so much, my goal is not that I'm gonna try to endorse people and just say, hey, you should vote for these people. I'll still give my quick opinion on that, but mostly I just wanted to analyze what they were saying and go with ideas and principles, things that you can hopefully take from this and apply it to where you are as well. So the whole premise of these events just started to bother me while I was watching it. So they're typically framed as opportunities for residents to make demands, telling the candidates, the officials, what they need to do to fix things, what they need to do to make this better. And yes, elected officials are there to serve the people. That should be a given, or at least it should be a given. But I have things written down here just so I make sure I get all the points. But what's often forgotten is that citizens also have a responsibility to serve their community. Too many people approach these discussions with the mindset of what can my town do for me, when instead it should be what can I do for my town. That's a little bit of a play on from John F. Kennedy's famous expression when he said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And there are many issues with him, but I think that's a good saying that I've been more recently taken to heart. So I think it's a good thing to consider when you're thinking about politics and just your community, what you can do for it. And so one question during the forum that was asked was whether the city should pursue grants from state or federal sources. And some of the candidates made fair points, warning about potential strings attached. And then there's the moral or ethical question of using taxpayers' money from, say, North Carolina to fund the projects in this town. Seems a bit odd. But it reaches a deeper question of why do we need outside funding at all? When you think about it, if we expect our country to be self-sufficient, shouldn't we hold our own communities to the same standard? In particular, where I live, we take pride in saying how great our town is, yet we should be expecting to rely on others to keep it going. And that contradiction is it was suddenly hard for me to ignore. Now, of course, funding for federal use and funding for a small town are very different. As towns and counties, even states, they see a much smaller percentage of our tax dollars in comparison to what the federal government receives. So in that sense, financially, it's not a fair comparison. But then a major advantage that small communities have is the unison, the camaraderie that is among the citizens. Like, people know each other, or should, depending on the town. And that's something that really can't be achieved as a whole nation, especially a nation that's as large as this one and has over 300 and I think a little over 330 million people. So you're just not going to get that like you would with a town. And then another topic was parks and recreation, how to make them better, and often with an undertone of we deserve more. Like, look at all these other towns. This town has this, that town has that. But the reality is simple in that funding is limited and budgets are tight. There's only so much money can do because there's only so much money. We can't keep trying to squeeze water from a stone, as you can say. I've personally seen the framework and the guts of the budgetary efforts from the city commission that they have worked on for the past few years, and it's very well organized. They've taken a lot of things into consideration and years ahead in planning. It's serious work, and they do a very good job of allocating funds and setting realistic budgets. But back to the main point, if we truly want our town to thrive, that has to start with the people. And what I mean by that is, there are already some very good residents who are volunteering and working hard to improve things here, and they deserve recognition. But too many others prefer to sit back, complain, and expect their job to end at the ballot box. Voting is not enough. Until our actions reflect our claims of being great, our town will always remain ordinary. If you want something exceptional, we have to work for it and not wait for financial miracles. I know my message wouldn't be a winning campaign slogan, wouldn't be very popular, but it's kind of the truth we need to hear, and it's something I really needed to hear, because it's kind of been a revelation for me thinking about that. If we want better parks, stronger public spaces, and a more vibrant community, let's say, we need to stop expecting others to deliver them. We need to get organized, volunteer, and contribute our own skills and energy to make that happen. If I were running, that's what I would focus on. Helping to organize and enable people to take ownership in improving their town. And if most people aren't willing to do that, then frankly, the town doesn't deserve to be any better than it is currently. In short, funding is essential. Obviously, fire departments, police, and infrastructure, etc., they all depend on it because they need to be paid, for their jobs. But money alone won't make a community great. Financial capital can only take us so far. It's our human capital that remains untapped. Until we're willing to invest that, our time, effort, and care, we're never going to rise above mediocrity. An important skill I believe the commission should have is recognizing and organizing projects based on their strict need for financial backing. So there are some things like working on the sewers, for instance, that need skilled labor and people to pay for it. But then there are things that really just need time, work, and donated materials from normal everyday people who want to contribute. It would be interesting to audit the budget and see if there are projects that are draining it, when the potential solution can be volunteer programs, freeing up money somewhere else that would really need them. And finally, to tie that all in today's age with the internet and access to parts of the country that, we just have absolutely no association with, we sometimes expect ourselves to make a difference nationwide when there is only a small number of individuals who actually have that kind of power and influence. The reality is, the difference that 99.999% of us can make is to help our own community better. If most of us felt and acted that way, the whole country would be made up of many strong communities, which as a whole make for a strong, unified country. If we all took better care of what is in front of us, within our power and our duty of state, we'd be looking a lot better as a country right now. And if any of this sounds preachy, I'm not meaning it to be. This is just what I believe really needs to happen if we want a great community. And yeah, I could definitely even do a much better job myself of volunteering and helping out with things. And then finally, for anyone interested, my choices for voting for a city commission in St. Mary's would be, first, Gerard Kaiser. I think I've spoken to him many times, and I really like his view of things and what his solutions would be. I think that's a good choice. And then I'm not really sure about my second vote. It's, don't get me wrong, they're all good people. But, and then when you take a look at them in comparison to the generic politician, they're great. But I'm just not sold. And maybe strategically, in order to strengthen my vote for Gerard, withholding any extra vote for any of his competition might be my best use of my vote. But I don't know, I'll have to weigh between that and maybe having my second vote go to Rafael Ramos. I don't actually know much about him, but he does seem to have that willingness to be flexible and cooperative, which are good traits to have. He's just like most other people who run for this, not experienced in this, but you learn on the job, and he does seem like someone who take that seriously and would be someone who's good to work with, especially for the people who are already on the council and are experienced, that he can definitely feel guided by them. So that's all I have to say about this. It's just my thoughts. I wish we kind of had more of an attitude of everybody working to make their community and in whole their country better, rather than thinking that's all solely on the politicians to do. So that's everything, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening, and good luck tomorrow.